Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Sunday night, and it's time for the completely infrequent Dan Wickline Show. We are going to be talking about Superman tonight, and just to get it out of the way up front, we are absolutely going to be talking with spoilers this evening. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, first thing, what's wrong with you? Because it's top of the box office right now. I'm seeing people online talking about how they're seeing it 2, 3, 4 times. So pretty amazed by that. But I finally got out and saw it. As some of you regulars know, I haven't really gotten a chance to go to the theater much lately. I think my last movie was Quantum Mania. So I actually got over there. This one had me excited enough that I got over to the theater. Mind you, it was a Tuesday morning. Very few people. I walked in with my walking stick, threatening to beat people in my way. So, get off my lawn. But Lisa and I went and saw it and had an absolutely great time. But right after that, I came back and was talked to Jim Beard, my old co-host for Popco the Writers, and I said, hey, you want to come back and at least do one episode where we talk about Superman? He's like, yeah, let's do that. So Jim's going to join me in a second, along with writer John Bruening. Together they publish Flick Books, so I'll let them talk to you about that. But wanted to get things started. I see Ed's here already. Good to see you. Ed says he's watched it 4 times. All right, so getting Ed to a theater, it's interesting too. So, all right, let's bring on Jim. Hello, sir.
Hey.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. And it's Flinch Books.
Flinch.
That's
Okay. See, when you flick somebody, the next thing they do is flinch. See, it's kind of connected.
Okay, you were just premature.
Yes, I was on the front part of it, not the back part. You've changed locations. I don't remember the...
I'm upstairs today.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
in the spring and summertime, I moved my studio upstairs because it's too cold up here in the wintertime.
Makes sense. All right, you want to introduce our other guest?
Yeah, so this is my publishing partner, John Bruening, who also happens to be from the home of Superman, Cleveland, Ohio.
Hello, John.
How you doing? Good to be here.
Hey, Mr. Nope, good to see you. So, all right. So, John, you're from Cleveland. Are you you're as well, right, Jim?
No, I'm a little over to the west, Toledo.
Right. I'm from California, so the Midwest is just anything from Arizona to Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Just that whole area is the Midwest.
Okay.
We're just another one of those states with I's and O's in it.
I mean,
people on the West Coast is sort of like, I don't know, Iowa, Idaho, Ohio. It's all the same to them.
It's just vowels, I mean, what's with all the vowels?
Well, we have Superman, so that's all that counts.
That's right. What more do you need, right?
There you go. We've got sunshine and beaches, but you enjoy Superman.
Okay. And we did.
All right. So talking to John for a couple minutes beforehand, John, you just got out of the theater a couple hours ago from seeing Superman the second time.
That is correct. It was it's about 6:15 local time. I was driving home. I wanted to have it fresh in my mind before we did this tonight.
Wow.
Okay. And Jim, you've seen it twice, I believe.
Yep.
So you guys are both one up on me, but I was telling John, I've seen so many clips and teases and stuff online. And if you're on TikTok, there are people with, had their phones in the theater. So it's like I've seen it about 37 times.
Yeah, I bet.
So
you replayed it in your mind how many times too?
Oh, absolutely. There's something I'm contemplating. Before we get started, I saw a review of the story of the movie from John Bogdanova.
Yeah.
Who, of course, was big in the, as they call the Triangle era.
Right.
where all the Superman books were connected, the death of Superman, the reign of Superman. And I copied it down because it was such a great review and so on the nose. But I don't think I actually want to read it all. But I do recommend that if you can find him on Facebook and check it out, because he's very critical of everything after the first Superman movie from '78. He's even hypercritical of Superman 2, to the point of hating Clark going back and beating up the guy in the diner, and taking away Lois's memory and stuff.
Yeah.
So
that part was harsh. It certainly was. Yeah.
So John has not liked the Superman movie since '78, and he absolutely loved this one. And that just, to me, I was like, okay, I get this, and I've seen so many positive reviews. I've seen some negative, and they're not all, oh, I prefer Henry Cavill. There's some, real legit reviews. It's not just Snyder Bros out there, but that does seem to be a big part of the negativity. By the way, hey, Andrew, good to see you. So let's start off with just what were your guys's kind of that first out of the theater feel when you saw the movie. Go ahead, let's start with John.
Okay. Out of the theater. Okay. I will say this. I mean, I had seen enough. I had seen enough trailers and clips, etc., to know going in that I was in for a very different kind of Superman from what I was used to, and from what I expected, and from what most people were used to. So it was kind of good. And I think Dan, we talked about this a little bit for a minute before we went on here. In this instance, sometimes seeing too much before you see the movie is not a good thing, but I think in this instance it was a good thing. It prepped me for the whole concept of a very different kind of Superman, so that when I got there, I didn't go into an immediate shock like, oh my God, what the hell is this? By the time I got there, because of what I had seen, I was ready for something different, something new, something fresh, something, outside the box. I was almost 15 when Christopher Reeve's first movie in the middle of December of 1978. And I have to say, in some ways, this almost felt as fresh as that. Granted, I'm much older than that now, but this felt like very different. But also, as I said to many people,
hang on a second, John. You're kind of breaking up a bit.
Yeah, you're going at your microphone's not right. Something's not right.
Okay, let me check that.
Oh, there you're back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Not sure what happened there. Okay. So what was I saying?
You were 14.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, a long time ago. But as I said to many people, when I came out of the theater, my first response to a lot of people was kind of wacky, but a lot of fun. And just in the most succinct terms, that's sort of that was my takeaway the first time out of the theater. Different, wacky, but fun and fresh and fun.
Jim?
Yeah, I can play off of that somewhat. I'm a big fan of what I sometimes call bonkers movies. Movies that sort of have their own rules and just throw things at you, and it's up to you to try to keep up. Like Buckaroo Banzai is a perfect example of a bonkers movie that I love. Big Trouble in Little China. It took me a little bit to realize that this Superman movie is kind of like that. It's bonkers, but in a good way. It kind of makes its own rules. It has so many things going on. It's an existing universe that you're dropped into. It doesn't just start right here, and you kind of have to keep up with it. And by the time that you get one element down and kind of locked in, they give you another one, and an element man for that matter too. But that's how I felt like it. I kind of knew that we were going to get something kind of wilder and more fun and things like that, and it it exceeded those expectations for me, and I was just sort of like, where did this thing come from?
Yeah.
And I think I should have probably trusted James Gunn a little bit more than I was when I went in. He took a couple of chances, and it doesn't always hit right, especially kind of in the first quarter of the movie. I was a little surprised at some of his choices, but on a second viewing, I kind of saw the genius behind it. But I was just so glad that it was fun. John hit it right on right there. It was just one fun roller coaster of a movie, and it was pretty much just what I wanted and more.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of. This is gonna take a while to get around to, but for a long time I've been looking for the best Superman stories. And every time I talk to people, I'm like, "Hey, what are the best Superman stories?" It's always All Star Superman, Superman Birthright, and Superman for All Seasons. All of these standalone stories. Now, for me, my favorite Batman story is Hush. Because to me, it's all the elements I wanted in a Batman story.
Sure.
But what it wasn't was a standalone. It started in what? I want to say 608, 208, something like that, or some. It was just another issue of Batman.
Yeah.
And then it ran for 12 issues, and then the next writer came on. It was a story arc within the ongoing series. And I loved that. And that's one of the things I really liked about Hush. And I like what they're doing with Hush too. But there wasn't any, I haven't found very many Superman stories like that.
Yeah.
This movie to me is that. It is a story arc within an ongoing series. We're just coming in at the beginning. James Gunn is like your best comic book writers in that he doesn't sit there and handhold you and make you come along. He says, okay, look, I'm going to give you the information as we go along that you need, but just get in, let's go. And I love that because, like I said, it feels like I should be able to go out and find 2, 3, 4 more Superman movies that take place before this because it's an ongoing story. And I absolutely love that. That got me excited because, it's this existing world, as you guys said. So that's that's the impression I came out of the theater was I had just picked up this great story arc in an ongoing series.
He gives you about 5 lines of text on the screen to tell you what has happened in the last 300 years, basically.
Yeah.
But it just you get maybe 30 seconds of text on the screen and says, "Okay, ready, go," and then the story starts. Yeah.
That was one of the things that I worried a little bit about when we got the text on the screen. Right off the bat, I said, "Ooh, some movies that begin with a bunch of exposition or have to explain a lot of stuff, sometimes don't work." I remember laughing when I saw the original Dune, Lynch's Dune, that they actually were handing out a sheet of paper with terminology on it as you walked into the theater, and then I think, doesn't it begin with the princess, explaining all of this stuff? And I thought, oh, and it was kind of criticized at the time of that, but it is a very clever wording thing, with using the threes, to lead you right up to this moment.
Right.
And I was surprised because we had already, seen the scene with him crashing, and then with Crypto, and it was so funny. It was like I was watching it for the first time in a way. I was a little surprised that was the way the movie started. Superman is sort of the Indiana Jones, and that's where he gets the crap out of it.
And it was one sentence at a time. It wasn't a crawl. Like with Star Wars, you had like a prologue that you had to read.
Right.
You know? And so many of these movies do this nowadays. It's like, if you're going to give me that much information, give me a voiceover. Give me somebody reading it to me. Don't make me squint at the screen because I'm old and you put light letters on a snowy background. What the hell? But
yeah.
So, for me that was great because 300 years ago, 30 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 hours ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So 3 minutes. So to me that was great. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump to probably one of the most controversial things and get your opinions on that because it's what a lot of people are talking about, and that of course is the message from Jor-El. I know a lot of people are flipping out. Oh, he's changing everything, but we've seen that in a couple other places. Some other, Smallville had something like that. Superman Birthright had something like that. Do you think that this was a change too far, or do you think it really changes the Superman story that much? Either one of you.
John?
Okay. I'm glad you brought it up because it's on my notes of things to bring up. I had some trouble with it. And I'm not familiar with other stories that might have used a similar vehicle like that. But I struggled with it a little bit because, at least to my way of thinking, and everyone's interpretation of Superman is different. But to my way of thinking, Clark Kent / Superman is ideally he's like the best of two worlds. He comes from essentially he's born of this very noble scientist, one of the great minds of the world that he lives in. Very altruistic, very forward thinking, very hopeful. And then he grows up on this farm in Kansas where it also, just very much raised with the idea of, valuing the value of life and et cetera. The idea of changing Jor-El's motives and agenda like that is something I struggle with because I really I like the idea of Kal-El being sort of noble birth. But when I find out that there's this agenda, like, okay, we're going to send our boy here because, it's, and we're going to, in the hope to just basically just sort of repropagate Earth in Krypton's likeness, that was a bit of a struggle for me. I didn't like the fact that they went there. It wasn't clear to me the first time I saw the movie whether it was actually like, was that like solving of the second half of the message, was that real, or was that Luthor just fabricating that to serve his own agenda? But it's pretty apparent by the time I got to the end of the second movie that's the real deal. That was Jor-El's message, and not crazy about it. I don't think it's a game changer. It doesn't make me, dislike the movie, but it was a bit of a big pill to swallow for me.
Yeah. There's some argument to be made that the structure is still there, sent to Earth from Krypton. Krypton's exploding, grows up in Kansas and all of that. That as long as that's there, we're good. It's the same with Batman. As long as his parents are murdered in the alley, then we're all good. But just like Batman, in more recent years, they have played around with Jor-El and Lara's, who they were and what they were all about. They've been doing this with Thomas and Martha Wayne now in the last several years in comics, that they weren't the sterling people, that we were told throughout the Golden Age and Silver Age and even the Bronze Age for that matter. But I have a little bit different of a take on it. It could be seen as something clever on Gunn's part, that in some ways I think it brings in one kind of unknown element from the origin of Superman, the character, is that he was created, or at least at one point Siegel and Schuster he was a villain.
Yes.
And this was when they first were really kind of trying to bring this idea together, and it was the Superman. And there's some stuff that exists online you can find.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, it was actually a prose story at that point that was illustrated. In some ways, I think that Gunn is kind of touching upon that too, to even show that there's some sort of villainous, foundation stones to that origin. I mean, in the very, very beginning, when the origin story is first shown in the comics, you don't really know anything about Krypton other than it was an advanced society. And if John, help me out here, wasn't it that everybody on Krypton had superpowers?
I believe that was the original premise.
Yeah, I mean original.
That's been changed and morphed over the years by different writers. Yeah. I believe that was the original premise. Yeah. That it was basically an entire planet full of superpowered people. Yeah. But that has since morphed into he gets his powers here by virtue of living under a yellow sun. But yeah, originally speaking, I believe that was the premise. Yes.
There, somebody ought to have a book that talks about the changing origins of superheroes.
Who would do that, Jim?
But seriously, I was a little confused when I went to see it the first time, because I don't know if I wasn't paying attention or it just went by. I was expecting them to walk that back in the movie, that Luthor has somehow created the rest of it, or they did misinterpret.
Right, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
But it's very clear that no, like they don't. The status quo is not maintained. It's like I guess it really was.
Yeah, they had like 4 different people say no, it's real.
Yeah. Right. I know. But it worked into what he was trying to lay down, is that it matters. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter where you come from. It matters who you are right then and there. And that's been an element of the comics for kind of a while now, that it's vastly important that he was raised by the Kents. That means everything.
Yes. I think it speaks to something I talked about this on another podcast that Jim and I think we were both on. A lot of the Superman story is about choices. It's like if you wake up every morning able to do literally anything, if you are capable, if you can do absolutely anything physically, just at one end of your street there's a house on fire with a family inside. At the other end of the street is a bank. What are you going to do? Are you going to save the family or rob the bank? And I think that, I think what Gunn is getting at is, at the end of the day, it's who you are is who you choose to be, not who your biological parents chose for you to be, or even your adopted parents. At the end of the day, the person you are, the things that you do are your own choice and nobody else's. Yeah. And I think that's the message Gunn was going for. Yeah. And when I frame it in those terms in my head, I'm more comfortable with the whole thing with Jor-El and Lara.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a little different spin on this.
Okay.
Because every person that I've talked to about this, including you two, made what Jor-El said as evil or bad. Now, let's take a look at it from Jor-El's point of view.
Right.
Okay. He was part of an advanced society, which Jim even called it an advanced society. He is sending his son to this planet knowing what happened on Krypton, that their misuse of resources and all these other problems is what destroyed the planet. So he is sending his son with knowledge of what happened on Krypton to Earth, a primitive planet compared to Krypton, and telling him, look, take over, breed, get more people who are going to be strong like you so that you have a foundation, and take control of the planet to keep them from doing the same stupid shit we did. It's not an evil thing. It's, look, people on Earth are stupid because it's just that they're not enlightened. They don't know the future we know. They're not where we are. So if you go back and you take over and you do this, you could guide them to a much more peaceful existence, long-term existence, than just having Earth follow in Krypton's footsteps and do the same dumb stuff.
Unfortunately, it's got a harsh element in there. If I'm not mistaken, it's said he says like get rid of.
He does.
And yes, you can look at it as winnowing out the weak, and it's a hard it's a hard thing to hear. I get it.
But is it that difference than when you're raising a group of puppies and one of them is bad, you punish the bad one, those kind of things to get order.
I guess.
So I'm not saying what they said was right, but I'm saying I don't know if it's necessarily from a place of evil as it was from a place of enlightenment. That look, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This is how you fix it.
Yeah.
Because look at the world right now. We've kind of screwed it up. This is not the best future that we all dreamed about in the 70s when we watched Christopher Reeves, is it? Is this the world we thought we were going to get?
Or when we walked on the moon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's all about, perception. It would have been interesting to have a line or two in the movie to show that, there were people on Earth who weren't that concerned about that message, from Krypton, and saw it the way, you saw it. But so I think in a way you're saying that basically it was a message of tough love. Kal-El, we need you to do a little tough love with these people.
Yeah.
And if they get in your way,
go back and live with the monkeys and get them in order.
I think part of what I struggled with that whole piece of the story was how quickly, literally in a matter of minutes, when Luthor exposed that piece of Jor-El's narrative, literally within within a minute or two, suddenly all of Metropolis turned on him. Like they were throwing, bottles at him and jeering at him and just like, wow. So all it took was one broadcast on a big screen of this multi-billionaire just saying, well, look, we figured out what this alien's real parents, what their real agenda was, and he convinces all of them in a matter of a minute or two, and suddenly they turn on him like just literally like that. That struck me as kind of rushed and forced.
It happens all the time in real life.
Yeah,
we get one story that comes out about somebody, even without a lot of evidence, and suddenly they're canceled.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. And I mean, I think some allowances have to be made that it is a 2.5 hour movie that you have only so much time, and you shorthand things to get to the point. The dramatics in this movie are a little towards the melodramatic side. So I mean, think of the tone of this movie compared to the Marvel movies. The Marvel movies pretty much do that thing that the comics did. It's the world outside your window, kind of things. We're in a fictional city. There's already superheroes, and it's funny. It's just a little bit more melodramatic. So, but I mean, John, I absolutely get what you're saying. And I think there's just those moments where you kind of, roll with.
Yeah, you have to get to the story. You have to get to that
end,
Right.
Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the cast. So many people were the whole. I don't want to get too much into it, but the Henry Cavill thing. Now, I know Gunn has come out recently and gave a little more backstory to what happened, how he was getting handed the reins to the DC universe, and the idea was he was going to get a new Superman and start this new thing at the same time as Dwayne Johnson was trying to kind of make a power play
Yeah.
to take over the DCEU with the Black Adam and stuff. And he's the one that was bringing back Henry Cavill and got Henry Cavill back, involved. So, basically Gunn signed his deal, then looked on Twitter and went, "What do you mean Henry Cavill's back?"
Yeah.
Right.
So putting all of that aside and moving on from the Snyderverse, what do you think of Gunn's casting of David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, and the rest of the cast?
Jimmy, you want to go first or me?
I want to shout out one part in this and one casting that doesn't really get a lot of play, and it really pleased me, was that I think we finally got Jimmy Olsen back, the real Jimmy Olsen. But Jimmy Olsen for the 21st century, this is exactly how I would want him interpreted into a 2025 movie. And it's funny, I didn't even notice the first time I saw it. I noticed it the second time I saw it. He does have freckles.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I had the same experience this afternoon. Like, wait, he's got freckles. He's all right.
Yeah,
that's Jimmy.
Yeah. It's really great because it's played. It's comedy. It's some humor in there, but otherwise it's played. Okay. Otherwise, starting at the big ones. David convinced me. I wasn't totally sure with his first few lines of dialogue, but then he really convinced me. And the scene where he's being interviewed by Lois was one of the ones that I had concerns about, that it was so early in the movie and it is so long, and it's basically just two people in a room, with a bunch of exposition. But I think it was the second time when I went back and I said, and it didn't hit me the same way. And I thought, again, it was a good way to get us to know those characters. Rachel totally sold me. I was not sure about her. I'll tell you, the moment that she sold it was the moment that I heard Margot Kidder in her. The way she says the word Superman, the way she says it, I suddenly literally heard Margot, and it was like, okay, she is in this great line of legacy of Lois Lane's, and I think that it was played just about perfectly for that. The one that I struggled with throughout the first screening of it, but then I was sold in the second screening, was Lex Luthor. When I saw it the first time, what's the actor's name?
Nicholas Hoult.
Holt. I felt like he was playing it on a different level than the rest of them. That he was really going into the more melodramatic, and something about that second viewing sold me. I started to see a little bit more nuances in it. In some ways, the first time it reminded me of the first Star Wars movie and Harrison Ford having to read that dialogue that he supposedly hated, that George Lucas dialogue, with the blah 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 blah, and throwing it all out there. I almost felt that Holt was maybe even struggling with some of the lines, that he wasn't exactly buying them himself. But again, on that second viewing, I was convinced that he really was, doing it well, and I saw those little nuances. A lot of the other cast, there's, especially the Daily Planet people, it's unfortunate. We don't really, Cat Grant is kind of wasted in this.
Yes.
Ronald Troop is barely there, and I mean, I get it. You got a lot of people in this movie, and you don't, and Perry. I wish there was a little bit more Perry.
That's a mystery to me. I mean, he's a fairly well-known, fairly prominent, and a talented actor. I'd love to know how much money they paid him to say very little in front of a camera. I was really struck by that both times last week when I saw it and today, I just thought this guy doesn't have enough to do. I mean, I think he delivers maybe a half a dozen lines that have any real meaning, and the rest is just sort of like a lot of commotion around the office, but there's not much of him going on at all.
I suspect there's a lot more with the Daily Planet people that ended up on the cutting room floor, for...
I don't, because
No?
I think this goes with what I was saying before. This is part of a bigger story, and it wouldn't have made sense for scenes in the Daily Planet without those characters there. And even though not much takes place in the Daily Planet, they exist in this universe. They exist in that building, so they needed to be there. And he cast people that could quickly give you the feel. I mean, Ron Troop, we got nothing out of Ron Troop. But Beck Bennett as Lombard.
Lombard. Yeah.
You get the feeling that he's Steve Lombard.
Yeah,
You know that.
I must admit, that was good.
Yeah.
Every bit the asshole he's always been in the comics.
Yeah.
Exactly. So even though we don't get much of them, we get just a little bit of their essence, so that when they do another Superman movie, you know that they're still there. Because if this was just another episode of the ongoing series and we were in the Daily Planet, those characters would pop up and you wouldn't get a lot of screen time with them. But
sure, they're
Right,
populating, that to make the planet, more grounded and real. I also want to give a huge shout out to Mr. Terrific. And it's Eli, and I don't want to butcher his last name.
Eddie Gathagi, something like that.
Is it Eddie?
Yeah.
Not Eli, it's Eddie. Oh, you're right. I could not believe. I mean, it's practically the Mr. Terrific and Crypto movie. I actually once referred to it as the Brave and the Bold, Crypto and Mr. Terrific. That we got that much Mr. Terrific, and he was such a badass and funny and cool, and everything else is just utterly amazing to me. Nathan Fillion as Guy was dead on, perfect. I was very happy with that. I wasn't crazy about Hawkgirl, both the casting and the way she was presented. I mean, let's see where it goes and how it goes. I think there's kind of a big 800-pound gorilla in the room with her killing. The guy, the leader or whatever. So I mean, that's kind of a big thing there that is not really addressed.
But I think that was, in a way, setting up the universe to say, yes, Superman doesn't kill, but that doesn't mean all the heroes in this universe don't kill.
Well, I think it's also setting up the idea of the heroes of this universe need to move to a better place, and that will be the Justice League. This is not what it's supposed to be. This is not the end game of superheroes, and in fact, in some ways, there maybe even isn't, other than Superman, actual superheroes in this universe. The Justice Gang isn't quite there, they're corporate. They have code names and powers and all of that stuff.
They're referred to as metahumans in this story, right?
Metahumans, right? Yeah. I mean, DC loves that term. They stumbled upon it now many years ago.
Yeah.
I feel like it was not. It wasn't Crisis and it wasn't Legends. It was Invasion. I think they went whole hog on the term metahumans, if I remember correctly, the Invasion series. But
it's also because they co-own superheroes with Marvel.
I think that's a lot of it. John, who stood out to you?
Okay, refresh my memory if either one of you can. Am I remembering correctly that Rachel Brosnahan was the first cast member announced when this movie was coming together?
Maybe.
I thought David Cornsweet was, but
or maybe both at the same time.
I think it was at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's what I can tell you. I mean, I watched. I think it was all four seasons of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and so when I heard that she was being cast as Lois Lane, I thought that was a stroke of genius. Having watched 4 seasons of that show, I mean, she was the classic, fast talking, tough talking, feisty, no nonsense, take no prisoners, exactly what you want in a Lois Lane. So I thought, okay, I don't know a whole lot about James Gunn. I don't know who else I knew nothing about David Cornsweet at the time, but I thought if this is where Gunn is coming from, I trust what he's going to do with the rest of the cast. And I think it wound up. I think I wound up being correct in that regard. I think again, as I said at the outset of this conversation, David Cornsweet is not your typical Superman, but I think he is a very well cast Superman. I mean, there was nothing like really super polished about him. I mean, let's face it, every Superman we've seen on screen has always had, perfectly coiffed hair.
Yeah.
This guy, he's just like a head full of wavy, dark brown hair that's sort of everywhere all the time. And when he's really getting down and dirty with the bad guys, it's all over the place. And I noticed this time more so than last week. When Clark Kent is walking down the streets of Metropolis and walking through the offices of the Daily Planet, I don't know who the costume designer was, but he or she is brilliant because like his suit never really fit quite right. And that's more of a costume design thing than it is an actor thing. But I think he did a really good job of just sort of being like not totally quite put together as smoothly and as polished as a lot of guys in his generation, his age range would be. I mean, he looked like a farm boy who came to the big city to get a job in a newspaper. He was never, his tie was always kind of askew. His suit was always a little bit too big.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he did that well. He played the he played the bumbling Kent, not in the same way that Reeve did, but he played it in his own way. He played it very well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it didn't come across as bumbling to me as awkward, which I think, which I am totally for, because that's one of the things I didn't like about Christopher Reeve's version was his Clark Kent, because of how campy and bumbling he was. And I've never been a fan of that, So for me, the fact that he didn't lean into him over the top playing it that way, it just feels like when he's Clark Kent, he's awkward as hell, and he's a little awkward as Superman too.
Right,
that's a
exactly.
Good point. That's a really good point. That's one of my other little regrets of this movie is if you step back from it, we get pretty much one scene with the disguise Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's Clark through the whole movie, but the disguise, the glasses and the suit and all of that, it's a little bit of a shame. It's only that one scene, and it made me wonder if Gunn thought that was just enough, like any more, and maybe it does get a little farcical. But I mean, again, he is, we all know that he's not really Superman. He's not really Kal-El. He's always Clark. But before I forget, way too many people knowing he's Clark Kent.
But they call that out too. She's like, "Why doesn't he tell everybody?" Yeah.
I love it when Lois goes, "Boy, you really do trust everyone."
No. The best line is because we're of the cloth.
Of the cloth.
I'm like that perfect.
My wife Becky was the biggest Guy Gardner fan around, and boy, oh boy, and she loved Nathan Fillion. She was a fan of Firefly, so I can only imagine that how she would have loved those two things coming together, and we get the perfect Guy Gardner,
perfect storm.
Yeah, I love this casting, but for me, I like to step back and. Lisa, my girlfriend, she is not a comic book nerd. She's a nerd in many ways, but not necessarily comics. So when she first saw the casting, she's like, how dare they treat Henry Cavill that way? She was offended by that.
Sure.
And when she saw David Cornsweet, it's like, oh, he's all right. He's got kind of a big nose. And He's no Henry Cavill.
He also has funny eyes.
Yeah. So when we came out of the theater, she's like, he did so good.
Wow.
And she was like totally bought on. And I'm like, that to me is a sign that everything went well, is when somebody who is not a Superman fan is not invested like the three of us are. Three of us read comics as kids and saw 78 Superman and all that.
Yeah,
but somebody more outside comes in and goes, oh yeah, I totally bought in. And, because to me, he's the right Superman for this movie.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Henry Cavill was the right Superman for Zack Snyder's movie.
Yes.
And
I think that's the thing that people forget, that, like, we're talking about a character that is versatile enough that it can morph with the times in which he appears, and I think that the different iterations are supposed to be different because they speak to different eras and generations. I mean, I think Christopher Reeve, if he were 28 years old right now, he wouldn't look right in 2020. I think he would be wrong for 2025.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of like he's a reflection of his time, so he has to look and act differently depending on the era in which he appears. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And if you were going, okay, it's 2025, but I want to capture that same magic they did with Christopher Reeves. Going out and finding another Juilliard-trained actor with theater background and had done a couple of small roles was not a bad approach. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did, and that's what we get.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, but even to the suit looks right on him.
Yes.
I don't think he would have looked right in the suit that Henry Cavill wore, or even that Christopher Reeves wore. It was the right suit for this character and for this movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And it did look much better on the screen than in those leaked set photos that we saw. And a lot of people were saying that, and that was my hope too. It's like it's going to play so much differently on the screen.
Yes.
Gunn is not going to film it where it looks bad or whatever.
Yeah.
And it didn't. It I worried about the texture, but we've been having that texture going all the way back to Superman Returns. Talk about a forgotten Superman. Brandon Routh, poor guy.
Yeah.
But I think, John, you're spot on about, we have a Superman that makes sense to us right now. Christopher Reeve, what was the Kurt Swan Superman, of that time that literally I was 14 and that's what I knew for my 14 years. Basically was the Kurt Swan Superman, and I think it was still going on at that point too. So, that made a lot of sense. Gunn makes some nods to reason and logic and reality in terms of how he looks, the costume, and things like that. But he also retains that sense of comic bookiness. It's a great balance. It really is.
All right, let's get to the other big thing in the movie. Crypto.
Oh, Crypto.
I saw Crypto was going to be in the movie, and I was of two minds. One of really, come on. Really? But at the same time, I'm like, but there's going to be a dog, and I love dogs. So I was kind of split on that. But a CGI dog, and I'm going to say this up front, and I'll let you guys jump in. At no point did I feel like it was a CGI dog. That Uncanny Valley thing didn't hit for me. Now, maybe it did for other people, but when you're looking at something that's like, my brain knows what it's supposed to look like, and CG, there's some errors and stuff, it didn't happen for me. To me, it looked like a dog through the whole thing. And I was surprised how much Crypto added to the movie.
Yes.
And was really played well to that. So what did you guys feel? John, what did you think about?
Okay. Boy, it's hard to know where to start with that answer.
You're a dog owner.
I am a dog owner,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I did not grow up with dogs in our family, but my wife had a golden retriever when we met and started dating, and he was with us for the first several years of our marriage. We have a new, well, he's not new anymore, but he's about 12 now, but yes. So I've become a dog person in the last 25 years. And and I'm not sure if I even knew that Crypto was in this movie until I saw the trailer. The trailer dropped on my birthday last December, which was kind of a nice birthday gift. But like, I remember, I think I did know that Crypto was going to be in the movie, and I didn't know how I felt about it because I always found him a little bit annoying in the comics. But I will say that in the opening scene of that trailer, Superman falls out of the sky and slams into the Arctic floor, and it's like he's just laying there bleeding and wheezing. I'm thinking, okay, where's this going? Our very first image of Superman is complete vulnerability and like, and then he lets out the whistle, and I swear to God, he let out the whistle, and I had a tear in my eye. It was like, okay, he's calling the dog, and the next thing you see this like what looks like an avalanche coming towards him from like 200 yards away. I'm thinking, of course, this is perfect. So I guess to answer your question, Dan, I didn't know how I felt about it until like he was right there on the screen, and then it made perfect sense to me. And I will say that having watched the movie twice now, I've heard people say Crypto steals the movie. I'm not sure if that's really the case, but he certainly steals certain scenes. There are certain scenes where it's just like, oh, that's awesome. Like to me, the best scene is when Superman says, "Get the toy." That to me is just like. And he just tears up those little drones that are flying around all the time. It just one after the other. He just chews the shit out of them, and that to me is just so much fun. It's just like, yes, I'm a disobedient dog. I misbehave. I'm this insufferable little creature. But if you really need me to step up, I can do it, and I will do exactly what you need me to do in the moment. At the end of the day, I'm glad he's in the movie. If you had told me a year ago he's going to be in this movie, I'd say I just don't know if I can go there. But having seen it twice now, it makes perfect sense that he is in the story.
Jim,
all of that and more. I have always pretty much liked Crypto in the comics. I was there in the 70s when Crypto actually came back. He hadn't been in the comics for a while, and he was found. He had amnesia, and he was found by Black Canary and Green Arrow in the backup stories in Action Comics, and then he was reunited with Superman. It's part of that bonkers thing that I'm talking about. I mean, he's literally a dog with a cape and Superman's powers, more or less. I don't know if he has the heat vision. I guess we'll find out. But I was amazed at how much I liked him being in the movie. I felt some of that trepidation too. But again, I keep saying this over and over again. Gunn sold it. I think it was very wise to have that first scene, that first thing that we see when he, released that footage and all, was like, okay, listen, folks, there's a dog in this movie. He has a cape and he has powers. This is the tone I'm setting, and just kind of gone from there. Interestingly enough, again, I walked out of the movie and I said, wow, he was really in it a lot. It was the same thing with Mr. Terrific. I couldn't believe that they had used the character so much. If you take Crypto out of the movie, there is parts of it that do kind of fall apart. Like
they collapse. Yeah.
And I love the setup with John with the the get the toy thing. That the setup is that he first does it with Mr. Terrific's T-spheres and Mr.
Right. Yes. I caught that this time on the second viewing. I did.
Who would have ever imagined that we would have a movie with the second Mr. Terrific interacting with Crypto the super dog? Even to the point where
and Metamorpho.
Yeah, and Metamorpho. Yeah, even to the point where At one point, Mr. Terrific, to get to where he needs to go, he has to hold on to Crypto, and he's flying along with Crypto.
Oh yeah, I love that.
The other thing I would go ahead, Jim.
Oh,
No, please go ahead.
Before I forget, what I did not see coming, and boy, was that it was actually a nice, pleasant surprise. And then you go, crap, that makes total sense. Is why Crypto is there,
Yeah.
who his master, or now we know mistress is.
Mhm.
I remember the line when Clark says, it's kind of a foster situation.
Yes.
I remember at that point going, the hell does that mean? And then
Yes.
forgot it because
I had
all
the
this
same
other
reaction.
stuff going on. And then you see it and it's like, oh my God. Now I can see where some purists might have railed a little bit because it's switching from the comics who his master has always been.
Mhm.
I guess there's no Streaky the Super Cat, in this universe, or not yet. But it was just another little bit of genius as far as I'm concerned. And Dan, I do agree with you. I on one part of my brain, I knew, of course, it was CGI, but I think it was so well done and it was so well acted
Yes.
with the effects that you don't really care. You know it, but you don't really care. Um, it's so it's he's not he's not a he's not a human acting dog, which I really liked. In the comics,
Yeah.
he always had his own word balloons, and
Thought balloons. Yeah. Right.
he was as intelligent as a human, if not more.
Yeah.
And this was, Gunn played him like a real dog that happens to have superpowers.
Yep.
And that was really, really
A
uncanny.
poorly trained dog.
That's right.
Yeah. Somebody just had it over here in the comments, and that's an amazing line when Lois said, like, what would she say? Like, you have to go after the dog or whatever, and he says, like, it's not, yeah, and he's not even a very good dog, but he's alone and he's probably scared, and I got to go back for him. And I'm not a dog owner, but I've always loved dogs, but I've never ever been a dog owner. But that really hit me, because not only did that say something really important about Crypto, but it really said something important about Superman Clark.
Right.
Really, really.
You know what?
That in the squirrel scene.
Yeah. You know what I liked about what I thought was interesting about Crypto was in the final confrontation where Superman finally makes his way back to and into Luthor Court, the tower that he and his team are up there. It would have been easy to have Superman blast through the window and he be the one to take down just to to clean Luthor's clock and just knock him against the wall. But it was Crypto.
Yeah.
And almost to the point where like Superman is saying, "Hey, down, easy," but he just keeps. It was an interesting twist. You would think after all that, it should be Superman taking Luthor by the collar and just smacking him around, but it's the dog who does it, to the point where the dog's quote unquote owner or foster owner is saying, "Hey, dial it back, pup." That's a little too much. And
a little in sort of a half-hearted way, because he wanted to see Luthor get the snot beat out.
But Gunn resisted what would have been a funny line, but it would have been out of characteristic for Superman. Is afterwards, when Crypto comes around, he's like, yeah, after beating up Lex, he goes, "Good dog."
Yeah,
exactly.
But Superman wouldn't have done that because he would want that. But it
Right.
would have been a funny payoff line.
Yeah.
One other thought on Crypto, which I think is amazing, is that now for people who are like, I love Superman, I don't care about Supergirl, why would I want to go see Supergirl? Crypto carries over.
Yeah.
You've got that connective tissue now built in with the dog.
Right.
So,
Yep.
All right.
How do you not go, if you love Crypto, how do you not go see Supergirl now? Right?
Right.
All right, we're at an hour. I'd like to keep going a little bit if you guys are up for it. If you got to go,
Yeah, sure.
say something. Okay.
Yep.
How do you guys feel now with the box office is looking great? I mean, we're at a 407 million internationally, 235 domestically after 10 days. I mean, this is really good numbers. This was never going to be a $1 billion movie. It had too much baggage coming in, and what this movie needed to be was good word of mouth, and a setup for a new universe. I think it is good. The three of us seem to agree on that. I think the word of mouth, because the ticket sales each day are surpassing what they're expecting. You know, this weekend was only a 54% drop from last weekend. They had the biggest Tuesday and Wednesday ever for a movie. I mean, these are big things. How do you guys feel they've done on setting up a new universe, kind of cleaning away the Snyderverse and going, okay, now we're going? How do you guys feel about that, John?
I would say it's funny because I kind of thought about this myself earlier this past week. My first thought in response to that question is, wow, if this is what the new Superman looks like, I'm curious as hell to see what the new Batman looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jim will have something to say about that. But that was like, you know, who's the right hand man in the DC universe? I mean, it's Superman, and it's world's finest. It's Batman. It's like, what is he going to look like, or how's that going to play? If this is the tone we're setting, what's that piece? What is that character going to look like? What is that relationship between Superman and that character going to look like? What kind of world is Batman going to exist in? Bright, dark, somewhere in between. That's what I'm most curious about. There's a lot of other characters in the DC universe that I'm not as familiar with, but that's what I want. That's what I'm really curious about. What is Batman going to look like in light of what we've just seen this past week? So I guess my answer to your question, Dan, is I think they've definitely changed the game in terms of what the DC universe looks like, and I'm really curious to see what the next couple characters are going to look like and feel like and sound like, and what the vibe is going to be in relation to what we've seen now.
Yeah.
How about you, Jim? How do you think they did it, setting up the new universe?
I think they really have wiped away what we've had in the past, but I don't. We're not completely out of the woods yet. It's kind of a crucial moment. They have a hit. People seem to like it. They could easily, Gunn and company could easily feel feel themselves too much. They could feel like they could do anything. I think it's, I honestly, if I was them, I would always keep looking back to what Kevin Feige has created. Look back to it. In some ways, this is the equivalent of Iron Man, that first Iron Man movie. But just keep being thoughtful and thinking about this as a whole universe kind of a thing. Things that you could get away with in the Superman movie, John, you were kind of saying it. You might not necessarily be able to get away in a Batman movie. Although I will say, this is kind of the tone that I wanted in a Batman movie. I've said it before. I think that we need to have a more adventurous Batman movie, a little bit of Indiana Jones, in there, and stop kind of worrying about all of those things that are in the Batman, because that's being covered. All of that's being taken care of. If you want that style, if you want all of that, Matt Reeves is doing that, and it's a separate thing from what we're being told. I'm a little concerned about this Clayface movie. That they're calling it a horror movie. I mean I don't know about making it part of the DCU or having it so early on, but I can't wait to see where they go. I mean, this was enough. They gave me enough that I cannot wait now to see what we're going to get. I hate the fact that now all of these guys like James Gunn, they all do interviews and someone cherry picks a line out of there and then blows it up into a big thing. And I hated that they blew up that thing where he said he wasn't sure what to do with Batman, and it might have been kind of an off the cuff remark, whatever, but it's like he wants to know how Batman fits into the universe. Why does that universe need a Batman? And to me, it's very simple. It's because Gotham needs Batman. Right. Batman's not concerned with the rest of the universe. There's people like Superman that will take care of that.
Yeah.
And he should honestly look back at John Byrne's Man of Steel miniseries and the meeting between Superman and Batman in there of how to play it. Superman decides he's going to tolerate Batman. He does not like the way he operates, and pretty much it's the other way around too. Batman is going to tolerate Superman. He doesn't like how he operates.
Yeah,
And then it begins to grow, and in some ways that could mirror the Captain America, Iron Man situation from the Marvel movies. They had two different ways of operating, but over a period of many movies, they finally became friends.
No, I agree with you on that. I also agree with you on the Clayface thing. I do love the fact that Gunn says basically a script has to be done to even move forward for even casting. Which you look online, people are, oh, this is the new Wonder Woman. There's no Wonder Woman script. They're not casting it.
Right.
That's very clear. Gunn has made that very clear. Oh, this is going to be the new Batman. There's no Batman script yet. Somebody's working on it. Somebody's working on the Wonder Woman script. But until there's a done, finished script, there's no casting. There's no anything like that. But, somebody asked him about Alan Ritchson, guy from Reacher.
Oh, that. Yeah,
as Batman. Somebody was talking about it in chat, and he said, "Look, I'm an Alan Ritchson fan, both as an actor and as a person. So, I think it would be fun to have him in the DCU. Let's see what happens." To me, that is a director going, "Oh, I like this guy. Anything's possible." Not, "Oh yeah, we're looking at him." But then you see 75 headlines. Alan Ritchson's front runner for being the new Batman.
Is that the main guy in Reacher?
Yeah, that's Reacher. Yeah.
Title character. Yeah, I think they should save Alan Ritchson for Doc Savage, but that's a whole conversation. But
going to do it. Yeah,
he's already been Aquaman and Hawk.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But then again,
why not just have Jason Momoa play Bruce Wayne Batman? I mean, come on.
But then again, using somebody multiple times. Look at the guy that played Metamorpho. He's already played Victor Zsasz in Gotham, and is it Vapor on Flash?
Yeah.
So he's already been all over the DCU, and he's back again as Metamorpho.
I saw a thing yesterday that put all these different actors that are in Superman and showed how they were all in in Marvel projects too. And I think he was somewhere in Marvel. Is he one of the X-Men?
No. Eddie Gathegi was in the X-Men. What was he?
Was Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah. Eddie Gathegi was Darwin.
Yeah.
And Nicholas Hoult was Beast or Hank McCoy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Anthony Kerrigan was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
I just don't remember exactly where.
I don't remember exactly either, but yeah, I mean, you know how these things go. If you're in a Star Wars movie or TV series, you practically get that's a ticket to get into a Marvel project, and vice versa.
Speaking of Star,
the same people.
David Cornsweet's working Star Wars like a second job. That guy wants to be in it so bad. It is coming up so often in all of his conversations. He's just like, please, Disney, let me be an X-Wing pilot.
I'm sure that's probably going to happen now. That's all he has to do,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if Daniel Craig can show up as a stormtrooper, I think, they can throw David Cornsweet into an X-Wing somewhere.
Well, what's interesting is in all of this, all of the promotional tour that they've been doing, David Cornsweet has shaved down hair and pretty much a beard, and he looks really different. So let him do other stuff, and maybe we won't recognize him as Superman.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let the guy. I hope he does get. I hate when somebody gets typecast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Christopher Reeves had such a hard time breaking out of the Superman mold.
Yeah.
Even though he did some great stuff, Mousetrap, Somewhere in Time, just a lot of really good stuff, but he will always be known for Superman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
By the way, I do love that they got his son, as one of the reporters, and was it Jerry Siegel's grandsons as background actors?
Yes. Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that.
Rachel Brosnahan said that in one of the promotional interviews that.
Yeah, in the scene where they're looking, everybody's in the Daily Planet's looking up at the camera.
Yeah,
they're like right behind Steve Lumpard.
Yeah,
both grandsons.
I wasn't aware of it even at the time, which is weird that they wouldn't have introduced them, to her. She said on somebody's desk. It's Lois's desk. She said that they have had a photo of Jerry Siegel's wife because she was one of the inspirations for Lois.
Right.
And they said they put a little framed photo of her on Lois's desk, and I thought that's great. And you can imagine that was Lois's grandmother, or something like that. I love that.
I have enjoyed the press tour so much because you find out so many stupid things about these people. But the fact that David Cornsweet's grandfather was one of the original writers for the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Is that right?
I read that. Yes, I did read that somewhere. Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, it's that promotional tour has been the goofiest damn stuff. I don't think we've seen a promotional tour like that in a long time. Around the world,
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to do it with the Fantastic Four, and every time I see it, I'm thinking, is Pedro Pascal sleeping with all of them? Because it sure seems like it.
I feel like we're seeing a little too much of that guy lately, and in too many projects. It just seems like he's.
Well,
this is the guy whose breakout role you never saw him for you never saw his face for like 3 or 4 seasons, but now you can't stop seeing the guy now.
That's one of my concerns with that movie. Dan and I brought this up a lot. I always have a problem with you're watching one of these big movies, famous character, whatever, but they get a well-known person to play it, and then you don't see it as the character. It's literally, there's Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. You're not just saying, there's Reed Richards. That is my concern. Yeah. I like him, and I'm not against him playing Reed Richards, but Reed is one of my most favorite characters. He's like my second or third favorite Marvel character that I have. So I have a little concern about that. Going into Superman, I had no idea who David was. I knew the name Rachel Brosnahan, but I had really no idea. Nicholas Hoult, all the rest of them. So I got that leg up on that. They were those characters, and not so and so as those characters.
I think the best thing for me out of the whole Superman movie is the fact we finally got a proper Lex Luthor. We got somebody who is a narcissistic personality disorder, who's driven by his hatred of Superman, not just trying to do a real estate scam.
Although he kind of
come
was.
on, give him a break. It worked
feel like
back
he kind of.
then. Come on, it worked back then.
I feel like he kind of was doing a real estate scam. He was just doing it halfway around the world as opposed to on the West Coast.
Yeah,
of the
right.
United States.
You're
Yeah,
right.
I'm going to back off.
You
You're
are
right.
absolutely right, John. Points. Bing, bing.
You're right. Yep.
And at some point, I don't know if it was the first time I watched it or the second, I thought it's. I don't want to say same old because that sounds too negative, but just like, yeah, here we go again. He's working a land deal. He just happens to be doing it like on the other side of the planet.
They just needed in that photo that showed it one little part that said Otisburg.
Yes.
Oh my
And
God, there
speaking of
was
that-
an Otis.
Yes,
There
I was
was
just
an
gonna
Otis
say
in
I
here.
didn't catch it till I saw it today, but there's a guy on his team. I think it's the black guy. He's
It
kind of
is.
Yeah.
he's kind of just a big guy, and I think
Yeah.
it's quick, but I think they refer to him as Otis, right?
He
Yep.
is. That's Otis. I saw somebody say that if you think about it, there's how many Superman movies where the big thing at the end is that Superman's focus is divided. In the original Superman movie,
Yes.
the missiles went two ways, East Coast,
Yes.
West Coast.
Right. Well, it's the
and
bank
then,
and the burning house all over again, right? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. There you
Wait.
go.
Ed's got it right. He said that Gunn tried to misdirect us by making you think it was a real estate scam, but he just did it to get permission to kill Superman.
No, I think he would have liked having that country regardless.
Yeah,
Or
probably.
half of it,
Yeah. All right. So let's get your final thoughts on Superman. If this, I know that I've been having a lot of things, and it's kind of make me think about Superman a little different. But let's go to you guys. Has this made you look at the character any different, or how do you feel coming out of this movie? Jim, let's start with you.
Just the other day, I did a big thing in my life. I stopped buying new comics. So I am out of modern comics. So this is very interesting, Dan, the way you put that, because that's the thing that I went to. He is my Superman right now. I am no longer following the comic book Superman, the modern comic book Superman. So I can totally accept him as Superman in my heart, and as long as they keep up the quality and the scripts are great, and I will look forward to seeing David for the foreseeable future, as Superman. So I'm very happy. I'm looking forward to some cameos, and then I'm looking forward to that next big, whether or not it's Superman 2 or the next big one that he's in where he's a main character is Justice League. But I expect he'll be a cameo in Supergirl. I expect he might even have a cameo somehow in the Batman movie. And I think that they need to keep reminding us that he is superhero number one in that universe. So I'm a happy camper right at this moment. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next, and I wouldn't have imagined it, but I'm going to see a Supergirl movie.
Nice. Before John, just my brother pointed out the Artemis picture on the wall. Thanks for the shout out, Jeff. Okay, John, how about you coming out of the movie?
Two thoughts. One is kind of universal. The other is kind of personal. Despite the misgivings I expressed earlier about the whole piece about Jor-El's sort of unknown agenda or the revealed agenda, I do like the idea that at the end of the day, we have a Superman who, and this goes back to what I was saying about choices earlier. At the end of the day, this is a guy who does what he does strictly because it's his own idea. The concept of altruism comes from inside of him as opposed to sort of something that was handed to him by his biological parents or his Earth parents. And it's something that Jonathan tells him on the front steps of the house. He just says, I don't remember the exact words, but he basically says, you are who you are because of the choices you've made in your life, which is kind of what you want from a character like this. It's just a guy who does good because it's just part of who he is. It's not something that was it's not a mandate that was handed to him. It was just sort of like, well, this is what you're supposed to do. You're still supposed to do good for its own sake, and that's I think that's the kind of Superman. At least it's the kind of Superman I want. I can't speak for anybody else. I've heard so much rancor about this over the last several months, but that's kind of what I'm after. The other piece, again, this is more personal. I don't expect everyone, to feel the same way. But given where I come from, given where I have spent my life, there's something really resonant for me to see Superman walking around and flying around the streets of the city where he came from. Downtown Cleveland, which figures prominently in this film, is about 5 miles away from the house where 2 teenage boys from Cleveland brought him to life. Mm-hmm. And so again, I don't expect somebody from like Fort Wayne, Indiana, to understand that the way I feel it, but it just so to me at least, this is a long-awaited homecoming for this character. This is, I don't expect every Superman film to be filmed in Cleveland, but seeing this movie filmed the way it's been filmed and where it's been, every other scene, I'm looking at the screen saying, okay, perfect example. The final scene where they walk into the arcade and they levitate and they have the big kiss at the end.
Yeah.
I used to work downtown. I ate lunch in that building many, many times. I've been to shops in that building many, many times. So to see a scene like that unfold in that place that's so familiar, it's very, very, it's moving. There's no other way I can say it. And
now I'm jealous.
I can't expect somebody from like Utah to understand that, but it's something very real and very important to me. And I can tell you that people from all over Northeast Ohio kind of feel the same way. So
Toledo understands.
Good, thank you.
Yes, Toledo absolutely understands.
You're always welcome here, Jim.
Okay. I'm very, very as an Ohioan, I'm very, very proud to have Superman as an Ohioan.
Yeah.
For me, there was a realization when I came out of this. Batman's always been called the world's greatest detective. And you see what his role is in the DC universe. And it was always obvious. He's the detective. He's the guy that tracks down the criminals. He solves the crimes and stuff like that. And there's always been this split. Like some heroes are that kind and some were not. And I realized what Superman is. Superman is the world's greatest first responder. He's the fireman. He's the guy that shows up when everything is going to hell. He's the guy that gives you that sense of hope that it's going to be okay, that he's going to be there and he will put his life on the line to get you to safety, to save the day. And we haven't had that in a Superman in a very long time. Yeah. We didn't have it with Cavill. We didn't have it with Routh. That was more focused on him being a deadbeat dad. Yeah. Even the Christopher Reeves one, we had a little bit of that, but this was, I'm out there fighting the kaiju. I'm out there fighting, the Hammer of Baravia. I'm out, he's out there, the giant rip in the pocket universe.
But not the dimensional imp.
No, but the Justice Gang had that under control.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But, that's what it is. He's the first responder. And there's other heroes that fall in that line. I think Flash is more of that character. Even though he's, a crime scene analyst, he's a first responder guy.
Yeah.
Certainly
in the TV show, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that really played well for me with this character. And I came out of the movie feeling hopeful. It's like when I was a kid, I'd go see Rocky and I'd come out and I'd be charged. Like, yeah, man, Rocky, yeah. Or, different movies, you'd come out and you'd feel charged. And I felt that coming out of Superman. And it's been a long time since I've had that feeling. Yeah. And I missed it. And I love it. I love that hope and that sense that you want to be a better person, because that's that sense that it gives you. It's about somebody not being a better person, wanting to be a better person.
Yes.
You know, and it's about, having a strong moral compass and stuff like that. Doing what's right because it's right, not because you'll get punished or, and it's all the things that we've been missing. So for me, that's what the movie was. But it was entertaining and it was fun. I came out of it going, I want to see it again. And I think a lot of people are doing that. Like I said, every person I talk to, they're on their second, third watchings of it, some even more than that, and they're getting their family and they're going, hey, you've got to go see Superman. Let's go.
Yeah. When's the last time that happened?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
maybe Black Panther, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Dan, to your point, Dan, I spoke to I texted my son. He texted me shortly after he saw it the first time last weekend. I think it might have been Sunday. I don't know. And he's 22 years old, and he can be a little cynical at times, as many 22-year-olds can be. But he said, Dad, it's just so nice to see a movie, like you said, where people are coming out of the theater wanting to be better people than they are. And it's one thing for a bunch of old guys like us to say that, but I think when a 22-year-old kid says that, there's that's an extra layer of hope that maybe you weren't banking on, but you're getting anyways. Yeah,
and I'm seeing kids in their 20s and 30s, and I can say that at 55, kids who are coming out with the right attitude. They're loving this movie. And this is a character that for so many years, people have been like, he's not appropriate anymore. He doesn't fit in today's society.
He's
and
boring.
James Gunn went, no, he fits fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie proves that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's like Chris Evans with Captain America.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Everybody was like, there's no way Captain America is going to work. He worked great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even,
great comparison.
And even looking at the international box office numbers, people are like, well, USA isn't that popular around the world right now, and Superman is so linked to the United States.
Yeah.
And those first box office numbers weren't that great internationally, only 95 million. But the second weekend, 84 million. Normally you go, big drop.
Sure.
This is like barely a drop because, again, people are going out and they're talking about the movie. They're telling their friends about it, or they're going back and seeing it again themselves. And we just haven't had a lot of movies like that in a long time.
I can tell you that the theater I sat in this afternoon was just as full as the theater I sat in last Saturday or last Sunday or whatever that was. That's
amazing.
It wasn't. I didn't see a whole lot of drop off, if any, in the course of 7 or 8 days.
That's amazing.
I went on a Tuesday afternoon. There was a family behind us with like 3 or 4 kids, and we walked in. Lisa's like, "Oh, great," because kids always get rowdy in theaters and stuff. They didn't say a word.
Mm-hmm.
At a place in the theater. They didn't get antsy. They didn't get up and run about. They were watching the movie. They were into the movie. And that is so awesome. There's a 12-minute talking scene.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And you didn't lose the audience. How? How is that even done? That is so against every script writing rule. But it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I took away from this is my Lisa's son, Braden, who I always talk movies about with. He's a big movie guy. And he said, well, it should be good because James Gunn knows the formula.
Mm.
And I said, you know what? He didn't use the formula. This isn't Guardians. This isn't his other movies.
Yeah.
This is him just making a good movie. It didn't, rely on a lot of humor or or, raunchy jokes or anything else. There was no Jackson Pollock joke in the middle of the movie. It was just a good movie. So, any final thoughts, guys?
Just bring on more. I want more. I don't want to wait another year.
Well, Peacemaker season 2.
Yeah. I hear you.
I'm just waiting for the next album from the mighty Crab
Joyce.
Crab Joyce. Is that what?
Yeah, the Mighty Crab Joyce. Which,
You know what? Maybe
I'm
that's
waiting for that.
maybe that's the real punk rock.
That's it.
What's funny is the people on the poster for the Mighty Crab Joys. The two in the background are two from a local punk band in Atlanta.
Okay.
But the two people in the front, the girl and the young kid, the girl is Peter Safran's daughter, who actually sings the song that they play at the end of the movie.
Is that right?
And the boy is James Gunn's godson, who just happened to be on set that day.
Oh, and by the way, Iggy Pop is a very happy man. These.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
His quote was, "Superman is the best friend you can have."
Yeah.
I'll bet.
Yeah, you old fart. Here you go. Here you
And
go.
I can't get that song out of my head.
Yes.
And the only time it leaves is long enough for the one that Mr. Terrific's fight scene plays.
Good for Mr. Pop.
Yeah.
I'm so
That's
happy
right.
for him.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, but one last note. For all the people out there who keep trying to jam Robert Pattinson's Batman into this universe, just stop.
No, yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
just.
It's
yeah.
a different Batman.
Yep.
Leave dark, gritty crime Batman over here.
Yep.
Let's get a more adventurous Indiana Jones Batman with a son, with Damian Wayne, which is what the plan is. I'm not even a Damian Wayne fan, but go ahead, let's do that. So I'd rather have Dick Grayson. But I'm old, so I want to go through the comics as we went through them. I don't want to jump ahead. I wanted Sam Raimi to do Sandman next, not Venom.
Trust me.
Venom's way down the line. Venom should be Spider-Man number 37.
Yeah.
I think that maybe they should have earned some of your trust at least with this movie. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Old man Dan. Old man Dan. Actually, man Dan is the youngest person in the room, as far as I can tell. You say 55, Dan? Oh no, that's I crossed that signpost several years ago.
So Ed brings up a good thing about the one thing Gunn did is the Mr. Terrific fight scene is a little bit the Yondu Yaka arrow from Guardians.
Yes.
But you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too.
It's
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite scene in Guardians 2, and it's my one of my favorite scenes in Superman.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right, guys. John, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
You're welcome back on the show whenever you want. Jim,
Thank you for having me.
You too, man. Anytime. So, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We had a great audience tonight. So thank you, guys. Andrew, Ed, Jeff, everybody else who popped in.
Go to flinchbooks.com.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, take a second. Plug it. Talk about Flinch.
You want me to do this one?
Yeah, you go ahead. I'll add whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah, so please go to Flinch like this, flinchbooks.com. John and I are celebrating 10 years of publishing this year. 10. It's been an amazing ride, and just wait to see what we have next. We've got a big show coming up in just a few weeks, Pulp Fest in Mars, Pennsylvania. We've already debuted one of our 2 anniversary books here. The New Adventures of Sergeant Janus is out. And then a little later in the year, John has his 4th volume of his Midnight Guardian series coming out. And you're going to get a heck of a sneak peek of it at Pulp Fest. We are really excited. Check out what we have. Buy our books, please. Flinchbooks.com.
It's great stuff. So definitely check it out. Also, I'm still working on the Obsidian Moon, the first book, Chaos Game, which I'm on chapter 6, so it's coming along. I'm about 15,000 words in. So
I should also point out there is a brand new book that all three of us are in, and
the Jack Kirby book.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, the
fun.
other great creator in the comic book sphere, it's called Jack of All Comics, a fan conversation about the king of comics, and of course that is Jack Kirby. Dan tackles Jack Kirby's Black Panther series. Speaking of the Black Panther, and John and I'm envious of him, tackled the OMAC series.
The much lesser known character in the Kirby Kirby body of work.
And I haven't got my copy yet, but how much did you spend on the girl in the box?
You
mean how much money did I spend?
Dan, your copy is on the way. It seriously, it really is on the way. And somehow I got stuck with talking about first issue special. But I chose that because that was my very first new Jack Kirby comic back then. Manhunter. So Jack of All Comics, it's available now from Becky Books on Amazon.com, and like I said, all three of us in there, plus 25 other writers.
And for me, the Black Panther one was special because, as Jim knows, and some of you know, I got Jack Kirby to sign the entire Black Panther run for me when I was 11. So
wow.
So that was a huge thing for me as a kid. But then going back and revisiting those as an adult and really kind of putting them in the place of history was real eye-opening, and just gave me a completely different view of those comics and about Kirby himself. So definitely check that out. That's on Amazon. But also on Obsidian Moon, go to danwickline.com, sign up for the mailing list, because I'm going to start giving away stuff through the mailing list. First chapter is going to go out to when we hit 250. At 500, someone's going to get a copy of the first Fog book, Deadly Creatures. At 1,000, I'm going to give away a full set of Fog books to a random person. And at 1,500, everybody's going to get a digital copy of Deadly Creatures. So sign up for it today, and I'll have more news on that soon. No, Andrew, I'm not getting the Galactus popcorn bucket. I am not a popcorn bucket collector, but God, more power to him. And if I was going to get one, it would probably be that Daily Planet.
Here we go. Look at that. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the only thing I got. I controlled myself, but I did have to get that because there's the star of the movie right there.
There you go.
Oh yeah. Now I thought about that Daily Planet one where it's like the paper. The newsstand.
There was some very nice stuff, and the Fantastic Four's got some nice stuff coming out too. But you can't have everything, you know.
Yeah, and if I got the Galactus one, I'd be too tempted to just have that do the show. Just put it right here and just talk through it. So
I have both Black Panther cups, from
nice.
Black Panther and from Wakanda Forever. So
very cool. All right, guys, I'm going to shut it down there, or we'll just keep going all night. So thank you again for tuning in. Everybody have a great night, and we will see you all very soon. I'll be back next Sunday with another topic. Have fun.